Well, hi folks, and welcome to the channel. So today we've got a JVC 770 ghetto blaster, if you will, boombox radio cassette, straight in from the 1980s. And actually it's not in bad condition. She's a bit grubby and grimy, so she'll need a decent clean. Missing a volume pot, so we need to, well, the knob at least, so we'll sort that out. Now, I've got some notes here saying that apart from the volume knob, the cassette actually runs slow and the fast forward and rewind are slow as well. I don't know about the radio, so we'll just have a look on the back as well. And she's in pretty clean condition. Last serviced in 2012, so 10 years ago, which to be fair is relatively recently. There's a screw in there which is for, that's the grub screw for the original volume knob, if we're able to find a replacement, so that's good. Right, the aerial is it's intact with the tip on the end, which is great, and also the aerial retainer also works. All the switches are present and correct, which is fab. A bit grimy, but that's okay, we'll sort them out. Yeah, so I think what we'll do is we'll quickly plug it in, see what works and what doesn't, and we'll go from there. Okay, so she's plugged in. Let's see if we can get this old beast to fire into life then. So the radio is on, so that's great. The tuning is down here on this one. Beautiful. So that's great. Yep, long wave is there. Medium wave. And there's even static on short wave. So, yep, radio functions absolutely fine. So let's go on to the tape now. So we'll just eject it. Well, the mechanism works. By the way, original sticker on there, which is great. Right, let's find an old tape and something period correct, I think. So here we go. See what happens now, fingers crossed. Well, that seems okay. Fast forward works, the counter works well, and the rewind works as well. So, doesn't seem to be that much wrong with it. I think she just needs a clean. I'll check the belt, I think, but let's just have a look inside, see what she looks like, see how much trouble it's going to be to get to change the belt, although it doesn't seem to need it. And we'll perhaps try and find a suitable volume knob, and this might be all it needs. Gently wiggle that away. Right, as I say, two things. One is the aerial, which isn't connected, and the second now is just to watch out for the screws that might fall out in a minute. So what I'm going to do actually is drop these screws back into the holes from whence they came, and then famous last words, but as long as I store it that way for now, out the way, the screws are safe. Okay, so the back is off. A cursory look around doesn't appear too bad. It doesn't look like anything crazy is missing. Yeah, she looks clean and tidy, to be honest. So what we'll do is we will just spray some contact cleaner into the switches. It wasn't too noisy, as we heard, but it won't do any harm, just to get any oxidization off and just try and clean them whilst we can. To get to the belts, we are going to have to take this board out, so we'll have to be mindful of that first. We may have to take the whole mechanism out in one go, but I'm thinking we should hopefully be able to take the board out and then we can get to the mechanism underneath, hopefully. But I have just noticed, ooh, hang on. Right, aha. Okay. There we go. That looks suspiciously like an idler tyre to me. So I think we're going to find a pulley without a rubber ring on it when we open it. So we'll try and keep that intact for a moment at least, for no other reason than at least we can use that as a reference because it's intact and we can measure it. Right then, let's get on with cracking the board open. But first, I was just going to put some contact cleaner in. Okay, so we're just going to try and get the main board out. I can't get to some of the other potentiometers and switches to clean them anyway because they're mounted on the other side of the board. Plus, it looks like we've got to investigate this, potentially this idler tyre. Not to mention the fact I don't think I can get access to the actual cassette mechanism mounting screws. I think I've got to get this board off first. Well, we'll have a look anyway and see how we get on. Yeah, just trying to see what we can take off without doing too much mess at once. Just very carefully unpick some cables from the board. There's not a lot of play as they are. I don't really want to desolder them if I can help it. Right, okay, so we've got the multi-pin underneath. I don't really want to have to desolder them just to get them out, but we'll just unplug the multi-pins, which might give us half a chance, like so. At least then we can see what's underneath the multi-pin plug under there, but that's a bit tricky to get to. So that's pulled out now, and that one there should be, with a bit of luck, the only thing that's really holding this in, apart from the obvious cable restrictions from the microphone. I was hoping not to have to get them out, but if needs must, I guess. There's the belt mechanism. So we haven't had to unsolder anything in the end. Just got to be super careful now not to damage the cables, the antenna leads or anything like that. But the good news is we can now at least get to everything and make sure everything's got a nice, decent clean. We can now get to these switches, which we couldn't really get to before. Yeah, you can see that belt's not really ideal there. And of course, if we think the idler tyres come out as well, then we could be in trouble. So we might need to actually take the entire cassette mechanism out. I'm just going to clean these switches again. And just a tiny little clean on the contacts. We'll just clean these pulleys while we're here. Yeah, some junk's come off, which is good. So to get the mechanism out in its entirety, we're looking for, I think, the blue screws here, of which we have one. So we've just moved one from there to with the grounding on it. 3. And that one is the one that actually holds the clip on anyway. Right, okay, so I've also taken the spacer out of that one, so then we've got 1, 2 and 3. Literally just got my mechanism out of here and found my poor little tape, complete with snagged up tape there. So we'll wind that back in a minute, but clearly there was some sort of issue then with that. So obviously the take up reel's not working on there. So here we go then. So the main pulley would have come over these and off of the motor. So it would appear the idler wheel here doesn't have a rubber on it, and here's the one we found in the bottom of the mechanism when we first opened it up, and I'm guessing that that's the reason there why our tape's getting spat out. So I need to find a new one, either get some calipers on this and measure one up to order, or I'll go and see if I can find a suitable O-ring, see if we can get this running. No promises, but hopefully we'll find something suitable in here. Okay, well, we've got 2 here. So essentially, they're as close as I'm going to get internally and externally. And yes, I know idler tyres are flat, but at the end of the day, this is what we've got to hand, and it does engage at least in the pulley. There will actually be a groove inside there, so if we can get this on, we should be okay. Well, that was a bit of a giggle, I don't mind telling you, but you can see we've got the tyre on now. I don't think we've done any sort of lasting damage to anything. It may drag, it may be a bit tight yet, we'll see, but it seems like it's kind of working. I guess we'll put it together and we'll find out, won't we? It'll do one of 2 things. It'll either snag up entirely, or it'll either bind up or it'll spit the tyre back off, one of the 2. But either way, we've got nothing to lose, so let's give it a go. We'll get this new belt back on as well. So that's that around the around the outside of there and onto the pulley for the motor itself. There we go, that's pretty good. Not twisted, it's turning quite well. All the 4 original screws are back into the cassette mechanism now, including the one holding the clip for the cables there. So I'll just check. Yep, the eject works. Sometimes if you assemble a cassette mechanism with the door engaged or not, you'll find that the actual cassette mechanism won't close afterwards. So anyways, this is all good. We've cleaned the switches before we put everything back. I do need, however, to change one of these out, which was my mistake. Good. Okay, right. Next thing then is basically getting all of these things back together, getting all the multi-plugs back in, and we should be in business. Okay, so the mechanism's back in. The circuit board is back on. I'm literally just in the process of screwing this back down for hopefully the final time. So we'll get to try this out in a minute. Basically what I've done is connected up all of the multi-pin connectors. They're all back in now. And what else? Just this one here. Okay, good. So all the cables now are pretty much tied back where they came from. We just need the odd little cable clip there potentially, but other than that, all business should be present and correct. So at least for the first thing, what we'll do is we'll power this up to see if the radio works. That'll be the first step. Okay, so we've got power, so that's a start. Volume. So if we go to radio and good, so that's okay. Radio's working fine.
Finally for today,
the stereo switch is good now. Right, so
how important it is in your life.
Here we go then. This is where it's going to go horribly wrong. This is where it's going to go horribly wrong. So at least if we press the eject button, we know that works. Fingers crossed, new idler tyre and the new belt. Hopefully we'll be in business. See what happens. Right, so it's fast forwarding, stop, rewinding, stop, no, it's still not playing. Look, it's not, the take-up reel's not working, so we've still got some more work to do. It may be that the idler tyre's too big, so not a success this time round, so we'll keep persevering. Okay, well we've got the radio and everything back on again and working, but there is an issue with the tape still, insofar as it'll fast forward absolutely fine. It was rewinding fine as well, not anymore. No, so it's not always working. So what it's doing is, if we press play, the capstan's turning fine, and then there's intermittent. If you can see, the take-up reel is turning, but then when you hold it all the way down, slightly too much pressure. Look, it wants to go, but not quite. Whether the idler wheel's slightly too, marginally a fraction of a mil too big. See it going? Because when you press it to there, it's fine, and it's only when you lock it down, that extra fraction of a mil, it's not working. That's working. So fast forward and rewind work. See, now it's working forward. Rewind works. It's just literally as you... working there, look, literally as you snap it in. Oh, it's almost working. So we might need to have to go back in and put a slightly tinier O-ring on there, or even a flat one, or just shave it down a tiny bit. Such a shame, we are so close. Okay, so I've basically got 3 O-rings here. I think the issue is that the it's almost there. The one I put on was that size, which is just a little bit too juicy. And I've got another one there, which I thought initially was marginally too small. However, this little piggy on the left didn't work. It's obviously binding just at the last fraction. It's playing, it's working now, but it's really just hanging up. So I'm going to go back and just put the smaller one in, which means stripping the entire thing back out. But anyway, at least we know what we're doing, so we'll hopefully only take about another 10 minutes. Okay, so the new idler wheel rubber is now on there. I'll just point that out. I've given it a bit of a clean as well. It might be too small, to be honest, but at least we've got that on. So I didn't want to leave it on a bad end. So that's the one that was the original idler tyre. This was the one I put in, which I hoped would be okay. But when I put it in, it was okay until you literally clicked play into the final position, and then it would just drag. It was too tight. So I then this was the next size I had down. I thought originally it was too small, which is why I didn't put it in the first place. However, I have just torn it down and put the smaller one in. And I'm delighted to say that she now fast forwards, rewinds and plays beautifully. There we go. So we got there in the end. So it's sometimes you find that it can be a bit nip and tuck with the old stuff, because of course you can't necessarily get the parts anymore and you have to kind of make do and beg, borrow and steal and stuff. But anyway, we got there in the end. So she's had a new belt, a new idler tyre, a good clean inside. Now I'll just give her a wipe down and that'll be that done. So I'll just go and find myself a new volume knob. So it's a slight shame that the only way to get hold of a knob to finish off the nice 770 that we had was to actually buy a donor machine. Actually, I don't think there's that much wrong with this one. I haven't actually tried it out. I'm sure there'll be something wrong with it. But I've just removed a couple of the knobs there just to show you what I've had to do. This one was actually quite grubby. You can tell by the one on the left. And I've cleaned it up as best I can. So hopefully that will be good enough to go on to the new machine. But as I've said before in the video, these things are so expensive now. To get one of these knobs into the UK now is probably going to cost me £20-25, something like that, probably $30 to $40, as ridiculous as that sounds. So in the end, it was easier just to buy a whole new unit. And you never know, I might come across a replacement knob for this one at some point and get this one up and running, or it may just become a donor for years to come. It's a shame that we have to break one, but every now and again, I guess that's what's going to happen. So here it is, the JVC RC770LB. So this one was in pretty good condition when it came in. The pots and switches were noisy, as they often are on these old units, but the two main issues really were the lack of fast forward and rewind due to bad idlers, and also the cosmetic fly in the ointment really was the lack of a volume knob. So we've taken it apart, given it a darn good clean and a polish, cleaned and lubricated the switches and the knobs. What else have we done? So we've serviced the tape mechanism. We've put a new belt on there. We've also put a new idler on there. Now, we didn't have a square profile ring, but we've used an O-ring on there. A bit of trial and error. One was slightly oversized, but we tried it again with a slightly smaller one, which did match the original dimensions of the idler tyre. And it's now running beautifully. So I'm going to call that a win. And then that only really left the volume knob. Now these are really hard to get hold of, and I believe it's only the 770 and the 660 that have these design knobs. So it's hard to get hold of them, and even second hand now the units are really quite expensive. To get a knob on its own was in the region of £15 to £20 to me in the UK, so probably a good $20 to $25, and that seemed a bit silly for just one knob. On the other hand, it's such a nice looking unit overall and in such good condition, and it's been so, serviced now so nicely and everything, it seemed a shame not to try and preserve its total originality. So to that end, I did actually go ahead and purchase a replacement unit for spares, and I've harvested the volume knob. So we've finally been able to finish the video. It's actually a couple of months, I think, since I started making this one. I'd put this one away for a while, thinking hopefully one day I'll be able to get the knob for it and finish it properly for you guys. I hate to put, half finished or not quite right projects back out there. So there it is. Anyway, it's been fun to work on, actually, relatively easy to work on. And it's such a pleasure to work on original examples of these machines. So there it is, the JVC RC770LB. And just before I go, I got so excited telling you all about what we've done to this lovely little machine, I forgot to show you it working. So to that end, I'm just going to quickly put the radio on, and you'll be able to hear that working already.
That's still a protective layout of everything.
And you will see actually how many channels there are.
To repeat history, so more on that.
I mean, there are just loads of channels. It's a very selective radio, actually. It's very nice, very sensitive too. So that's fantastic. Also, by the way, we've got the tape to show. So if I just go onto there, and you can see there's no horrible noises or crackling when we select tape. That's silent. There is one in there, so I'll just press play now. And we'll turn it up a bit. There we go. And you'll be able to see the counter going now with the new idler. So fast forward, stop, rewind, really strong, really smooth. And there we go. Oops, I can't play you any more than that because of the usual copyright infringements, etc. But anyway, there she is, the RC770. So thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting and, dare I say, a little bit enjoyable. If you did, please consider subscribing and hit the notification bell for updates. We've got a whole pile of boomboxes, radio cassettes. We've got 8-track players. We've got personal stereos. All kind of things being worked on at the moment. So do please come and visit the channel. Check out some of my other videos. Stay safe, and in the meantime, I'll be back soon. All the best for now. Bye-bye.